Season 5, Episode 3, right? This is 3. Yeah, Episode 3. So, April, we already kind of talked about the snow. It snowed a lot, and it made me think about, when it snows, it almost is like it's a different time, especially if you live in an area where you don't get a lot of snow. And so the times you get a lot of snow is a really big deal because it really, people up north are kind of used to that lifestyle. In the South, we're not used to it. We get it. We get snow. We understand it. But, or at least some parts of the South. What's something that, what's your experience with, dealing with snow and like just kind of figuring things out?
Funny you should say that, because the first thing that comes to my mind is my husband, who one day was doing the most in trying to be creative, because of the time that I was pregnant with our son. We lived in Tulsa and we had a blizzard that week. I don't know, over 15 inches, something crazy. And it was time for me to go to the hospital, have my son. But at the time, we had this car that was 2-wheel drive. There was no way we were going to make it to the hospital in the vehicle that we had. And so my sweet husband found himself Googling or searching on YouTube, one of the two, how to deliver a baby at home. And I'm like, no. How about we Google how to borrow a car from a friend, because your girl is not having a baby at home. And if you know my husband, Mitchell, what you do, he wasn't batting an eye. He was all in. Like,
Yeah.
Let's get the hot water. Let's roll the sleeves up. What I got to do. I'm like, bro, listen, I'm glad you trying to be creative in all this, but you need to create a path for me to get out of this house and to the hospital.
I could totally see that. I mean, it's an event. Your husband's an adventurous guy. Like he likes that adventure. So I could totally see him just taking the bull by the horns, man. And like, hey, we better figure out how to do this at home. But it's like we've talked about, like he was Googling the wrong thing. He was YouTubing. You need to figure out how to make this car a 4-wheel drive and jack it up a little bit to get me at that hospital, because we ain't doing it here.
We ain't doing it here. But that is a story, man, that we have to tell that I will never forget. And that's why I love stories, because someone's listening to this and they're like, I can relate. Maybe you weren't going to have a baby at home, but you can remember your husband Googling something crazy and you looking sideways at him. I don't know, but stories are so memorable, Mitchell, and they really help people connect to our brand. They're going to help people connect to the mission and what we're about. And I don't know one single series that we've talked about on the podcast where we didn't refer back to storytelling. No matter what topic we talk about, it seems to always point back to storytelling in some capacity, because it's just that important. And we think about this month talking about content creation, right? Talking about creating consistent, high quality content, taking content and repurposing it to maximize its reach. I can't help but to think, man, the power of storytelling. And when we think about our lives and we think about our brands and we think about our mission and our business in terms of story, how great the content creation becomes. So I would just love to hear your passion, because Mitchell, I know you love stories. And I don't know if you ever told the story before, maybe you have, but when you think about stories, what is your earliest memory of like recognizing that I love stories? Because we know you, if you listen to this podcast for a couple episodes talking about getting to know us, Mitchell loves stories. So where did that like passion start?
It was, so I till this day, I'm not a big reader. I don't like to read. I don't like to sit down long enough to like do that. But early on, movies was definitely something. Now, I know this in hindsight, but I remember watching movies that I was way too young to watch, but for whatever reason, it grabbed a hold of me. And I'll give you one, and I'm probably shaming my parents in some way, but Top Gun. So I remember I was younger than 10 watching Top Gun, and Top Gun's like, I think PG-13. It's a great movie. It's high testosterone. It's high action. There's a lot of stressful moments, but there's a lot of sexual innuendo in that movie. And it was so far beyond me that I couldn't even understand what was going on until I get older and I'm watching this movie. I'm like, oh, cool, Top Gun. I love this movie. And I'm watching it and I'm like, I cannot believe I would never let my kids watch this movie. Like, what was my mom and dad thinking? Like, I was way too young. Anyways, so back to your question. Movies was definitely something that I loved. I love comic books. I love watching movies. But and still to this day, I love that. Even like video games, like the games that I would pick would be because of a really, really good story. All the online play community, I didn't care about any of that. It was a story. I mean, I could see some of these to be movies. And then as I got older, there was a guy in my church that he did a lot of videos. He built a lot of content for, well, he was a children's pastor, but he wrote a lot of content for just various things. And now today he ends up being a comedian, which is awesome. But he said something that really struck me. He said, I'm how did he put it? Now that I'm saying it, I'm kind of losing track of how he said it. But basically, he loved to write stories. He was a person that made stories, and that really took a hold of me. Like, I think that's really what it is. It's the story that drives me. It's the emotional connection you have with it. It's the music, it's the lighting, it's the words spoken, it's the emotion that the person has when they say things or when they connect with someone else. And then you add someone else and it adds another layer to it. And then I think also what making stories today, I think one of the things that drives me in making stories is the audience's connection to the content made. So the people in the story has their own emotional connection and their own experience with it. But then you share it with people and they're in a completely different world. They're in a completely different set of circumstances. And when they watch it, they're affected in a similar way, maybe, but different. And like when I take pictures, I used to take pictures, I still take pictures. One of the things that I love doing was being able to see what pictures they choose to hang up on their wall. Like, it was just interesting to see the connection they have to the product, to whatever kind of media that it is.
Mitchell, I am so glad that you shared that. I loved hearing that. And what stood out to me is you talked about emotional connection. And I really feel like that's why storytelling inside of content creation works. Because when you share stories, it triggers emotions. It helps us process the facts better, right? You can tell me a fact, but if I can connect it with the story and connect it to an experience that I had or connect it to an emotion, right now I'm going to remember that better. So I love storytelling and content creation. On top of that, I believe that good storytelling influences decisions. I really believe that, right? People use stories. If you look at top brands, they use a lot of story in their marketing, in their commercials, because when people hear the story and it tugs at their heart, it connects them, it makes it relatable, they are apt to then make a decision to do business with you or learn more about you or connect with you further. And so I would just love your thoughts, Mitchell. When you think about storytelling and it being emotional, I really believe it's an art, right? Like, it's not just a science. Like, there's an art to this, and you are so good at telling story. When someone does tell their story inside of their content, what types of things should they include in their story, or how do they craft the story so it's not boring, so it's not like they're just regurgitating an event that happened, but how do you draw people in when you are storytelling inside of content creation?
Well, it definitely depends on the content itself. And that is a big question. And really, I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't think you'll ever arrive to where you would understand with a formula on how to do that, at least a specific formula, I would say. on, like here, this is where you make a left turn, this is where you make a right turn, you go straight. Now, like all that. Like, as far as the elements that you need to make an interesting story, one, like the content itself has to be organized. Like you have to have a start, middle, and end, a story, right? But I mean, as far as like content wise on a business, maybe, like if you make a product, maybe it's the start of how you make it, maybe it's the process of making it, and then maybe it's the finished product. Maybe it's a customer experience walking in the door, picking out what they want to buy, register, out the door. Like it has to have some sort of like form, I guess. Now creatively, you can take that rule and you can break it and it still be interesting, because that's the best thing about being creative is that you have a set of rules. But I mean, some of the best content, movies, books, music, song, whatever it is, they're breaking rules, So, I think another element that's really important is music. Like sometimes it's important, sometimes it fits, finding something that matches one, the content that you're doing, but also the emotion that you're trying to pull out. And one thing about emotion, we mentioned that a lot. And just a thought on that, I think, maybe we feel victim, or maybe you're not even aware of this, or maybe people are, but there's a thing called in the sales world, emotional selling or emotional buying. And what you're doing is you're trying to sell this emotion that drives people to purchase. And I don't think that's a negative thing. Can that be used as a tool against someone? Yes, it can be. And I almost feel like a protector of that. Like I want to use it in a respectful way, to where that I'm only promoting the customer with the product that I have. And do I believe in a product? Yeah. Do I believe that it'll make your life easier? Do I feel like that you need this product? Do I feel like it's valuable? Yes. But I'm not going to, me personally, I'm not going to use emotion to sell it to someone that it's like selling a Corvette to an elderly person. No, I'm not going to do that, So anyways, keeping that in mind, because I think that using emotion in the right way to sell something that, again, with all the great intentions and respect and loving your customers and client and all these things, I think all of that plays into how to use emotion and how to use the content and how to use different elements to make content that works and that it tells a great story.
Yeah, no, I love that. And when you were talking, I'm thinking about, at the end of the day, we believe in the solution that we provide. We believe in the product, and we hope that you believe in your product and your solution. And so when you tell story that creates emotion, it's not to manipulate, it's to connect people with this solution that they have, right? It's like, I'm presenting to you this problem, or this, for example, you might tell a story that illustrates a problem that your client has. For example, we might start off with saying, man, I was talking to a client yesterday and they were so frustrated with how to figure out content creation, they were going to pull their hair out. And now that I'm telling, this conversation, this story, you're relating to that, because you're like, man, that was just me last week trying to figure out this content creation. I'm about to pull my hair out. So now you're drawn in because you relate to this. The emotion that was shared, the emotion that this client felt, it resonated with you. So I think there's something to be said about the storytelling and the emotional connection. It's important because you want people to know, like, man, you get me. Like, I can relate to that. You understand me, right? You're not just giving me a bunch of information because it sounds good. You actually recognize the pain I'm in. You actually recognize the curiosity that I'm trying to navigate through. So I just think it's so powerful when you have that at the forefront of your mind. Like, it's okay to make an emotional connection with people, even when you're selling things, not because we want to take advantage or manipulate, but we genuinely want you to know, like, I get you, if that makes sense.
It does. Like, I see it as an opportunity to to make the connection and to well, connect. I mean, that's the word that I'm looking forward to. I'm not the thing that I get excited about when doing something like this is a connection. The thing that I don't get excited about is, hey, I get another sale today. Or really, and for me anyways, I'm not saying that this is the only way to do it, but for me, the sale is a byproduct. It's a win-win in that situation. Now, I get that there's some goal-driven people that are honest, great people that look at that different, and that's okay. Maybe if they're the, numbers and driven by data and all this stuff, maybe they need to employ We Dream to come in and we'll worry about the emotional connection and we'll worry about connecting. You know what I'm saying? Or put someone in charge of that. But that's the thing that I'm most connected about is the connection, the emotion, the people, how I can connect people to where I'm my goal is in taking them, and also again being respectful and doing it because they need it, because we see the value in it, and they have an opportunity for this product to make their lives easier, whatever the goal is of the product.
Yeah, if you're listening to this and you struggle with storytelling, you struggle with making that emotional connection with your client, maybe you feel like your business is so analytical, so logical, you can't see how you could create story behind your brand, behind your mission that brings that emotional connection, please reach out to us. This is what we do. We want to connect with you and give you ideas and partner with you so that you can truly begin to maximize your content creation through storytelling. We know that people, when they feel connected, when they feel like you can relate, that trust is going to heighten. So we're excited to partner with you in your storytelling content creation journey. If this episode resonated with you in any way, a couple things. Number one, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any other episode. Also, share this episode out. You know a business owner, you know a content creator, you know someone who's just getting started. Share this out so they can be helped, so they can connect with the people that their product or service reaches. And again, reach out to us. We'd love to help you. We believe in you. We believe in your brand. We believe in your business. And we want to help you elevate that, because together we
Dream
Media.
Media.